so now we're going to look at multiplying matrices. And don't worry about this ith row and jth column. That just means any row times any column. So when we multiply matrices, it's not commutative. Matrices are not commutative. So AB would not be the same as BA. So I take any row of A and multiply it by corresponding elements in any row of J. So AB would go with EG. So A times E and B times G, and that goes here. What I like to do is take the row and tip it like this so that I can see it, and then I just distribute through. So this would be AE plus BG. So I do the products and then add. And then this next one on the bottom here, or this one, so this is the first row, the first column, and then the first row, the second column would go here. So it would be AF plus BH. And then I'm done with AB, and I move on to the next row. And so that's where the bottom row comes from. I was jumping ahead a little. So CE plus DG. You see that? And then CF plus DH. Let's go through that one more time. Okay, so when I multiply, I take a row and multiply it by the column. So I start with the first row and put it like a column so that I can multiply it through the column. So then I do A times E plus B times G. And then I do A times F plus B times H. So how you know where to put it, this was the first row that I'm working with. This one, AE and BG, was the first column, so that's the first row, the first column. This was the first row and the second column, so that goes here. And then to get this last one, I take CD and do the same with it. So let's try this with one of these problems now. Let's go back to number 12. Now, to figure out if matrix multiplication is possible, we want to look at the dimensions. So remember, dimensions are row by column. So we're going to go row by column, and this one is row by column. Since we're multiplying a row by a column, these have to match. So because these two match, I can multiply these matrices. And the answer is the outside. So when I multiply these two, I'm going to end up with a 2 by 2 matrix. So let's try this. So I take 2, 1, 2 and put it right here. And then I distribute it through. And I do 2 times 1 plus 1 times 3 plus 2 times negative 2. Do you see where I got that from? I took this 2 and did it with the 1 and then the 3 and then the 1 with the 3 and the 2 with the negative 2. And then I take all these products, 2 plus 3 and negative 4, and put it all together, and I get 1. So that goes in the first row, the first column. Then I go on to the next column, and I get 2 times negative 2 plus 6 times 1 plus 2 times 0. So I get negative 4 plus 6 plus 0, which is 2. So I put a 2 right here. Then I move on to the next one. So I'm going to erase this work so we can see. I move on to the next row because this row has moved through all the columns. So now I move on to the next one. So remember, we have 1 and 2 here. And then I move on to 6, 3, and 4. Do the same thing. But now, because I'm on row 2, my answers are going to go in row 2. So I go 6 times 1 plus 3 times 3 plus 4 times negative 2. See, each one of these, the corresponding parts go together. And I get 6 plus 9 and negative 8. And that gives me, this gives me 1 plus 6 gives me 7. And that goes here. And then I go on to the next column because I have 2 columns, so I got to keep going. So now I'm going to do 6 and negative 2 plus 3 times 6 plus 4 times 0. So I get negative 12 plus 18 plus 0, and that gives me 6. And so there's my product of these two matrices. 1, 2, 7, 6. Okay, let's look at 14. So now this one is a 3 by 2. It's always going to be helpful to look at the dimensions to make sure you can even multiply it before you even start. This one is 2 rows and 1 column. So 2 by 2, yes, this is going to work, and my answer is going to be a 3 by 1, so it's going to be like that. So I take the 2 and the negative 3 and put it here. Distribute it through. 5 times 2 plus 1 times negative 3 gives me 10 plus negative 3 gives me 7. And that's the first row, the first column, so it's 7. I don't have any more columns, so I'm done with that row, and I move on to the next row. Do 5 times 0 plus 1 times 1, and I get 0 plus 1. I put 1 right here. Then I take the 1 and 2, cross this out, 1 and 2, 5 times 1 plus 2 times 1, 5 plus 2, and I get 7. So my answer to this multiplication is 7, 1, 7. And that's multiplying matrices.